All right. Something I forgot to mention in the last video, make sure that you took a picture of page 22 and 23 from your notebook and you put it on this slide. Okay, so I just forgot to mention that in that video. Go ahead and moving on to this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Piper. So we have filled out a lot of things with Piper. We've used Piper, that story about the bird who wanted food, the waves kept coming, that kind of thing. So last week we ended up doing the story elements, which is what is down here, and we skipped theme. But instead of skipping theme, we're going to do the theme today with that. So I went ahead and kept the story elements down here just to kind of remind you of that story. That way it's just right in front of you if you need it. I also up here in the top right, I have the short story here. So if you, I know it doesn't say that, but it will. But if you want to watch Piper, that will be the correct link to that video. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to talk about theme. Okay. So I'm going to kind of just go through this really quickly because I'm going to read this down here, the story element. So it's that short summary, and then we'll kind of talk about that theme. Okay. So Piper wanted food, but the food was next to the waves that crashed him down, and he was scared. Piper met a family of hermit crabs after hiding in the dry seaweed. Piper dug under the sand like the hermit crabs and saw all the shells under the water, which was food. Piper got food, and then Piper fell asleep next to a pile of shells in his nest. Okay, so as I kind of think through this story, I also feel like, yes, he wanted food, but his mom, just like judging by like remembering what happened, his mom used to give him food because he sat there in his little nest and opened his mouth as his mom got to the shells, and then the mom was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And so from that, to me, it kind of means that this little bird is becoming more responsible, becoming learning how to be older, how to take care of himself. So when I think about that, I'm going to kind of look back at page 22 and 23 to help me. So I'm going to look at the topics first, because I think like going back with that whole thing, I feel like it does talk about change. Kind of the whole fact of growing up is hard, maybe, or I don't know, like it's worth it. Growing up's hard, but it's worth it. I don't know. So let's kind of look at this. So we have change. So change was happening, but then I just said growing up. And if you look at page 23, there's also that topic of growing up. So I'm going to kind of look at change and growing up, those two things. And I'm going to see what they have in there for theme. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to make that bigger for you. There we go. All right, so change. People can be afraid of change, but change will happen. It's impossible to be certain. It is possible to survive against all odds. The only thing we can count on is the things that will change: beliefs, relationships, situations. Sometimes you have to accept what you cannot change. Okay, I don't know if that's really kind of where I'm going. So I'm going to go ahead and move down to growing up and kind of see what that one says. Growing up is a great time. Growing up is a challenge. It takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes becoming who you are. Sometimes becoming who you are is meant to be. Meant to be is difficult. That's not written correctly, but that's fine. All right. I feel like it's more so with the whole growing up, or learning new things. Growing up is challenging, but worth it. I kind of like that one. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one. Growing up is challenging, but it's worth it. All right, so I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to type that in here. So I'm going to have you type it as well, unless you have a different theme. You can, if you thought something sounded a little bit better, that's fine, because this is my opinion. There's not going to be only one correct theme for each story, okay? So I'm going to say growing up is challenging, but it is worth it. Okay, sorry, I'm thinking. Growing up is challenging, but it is worth it. Okay. Something else that could, and I may come up with more, and that's okay. If you come up with a few, that's fine. I'm actually going to enter this down here because I may come up with another one. All right, so growing up is challenging, but it is worth it. I agree with that. However, I also think that Piper also learned a lot. That yes, it was growing up, but he also learned because he learned from the hermit crabs. So maybe we could say something of learning or learn. I don't know, because he learned from the hermit crabs. He learned what they did, and then he used that. So he's being observant. Trying to think how I want to word that. I'm going to go back over here and see if there's anything that can kind of help me to word that. Let's see. Belief and perseverance. I don't really think that's what I want to do. I don't know if there's one in here for that. I may have to just come up with my own. So sometimes this is helpful, but sometimes your brain may go, you know what? I think it's actually this, and you may have to start to come up with something on your own. But looking at these can be helpful. They can kind of help you to come up with what that is. What about this? Kind of see this one. I don't know if I'm going to use this like word for word, but it's kind of interesting. Accepting a challenge can lead to something positive. I don't know that it was really accepting a challenge. Well, it kind of was. To go out there and get his food. That could be one. Maybe worded a little bit differently, but because it did lead to something positive. That kind of says the same thing I was saying on what I already have on here. Growing up is a challenge, but it's worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one down just as an idea. That doesn't mean that I'm going to use it. It just means that it's an idea of theme. So accepting a challenge can lead to something positive. Okay. I kind of want to do something with learning now. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe watch others around you and learn from them. I don't know. That's just something that I was thinking. All right. So those are 3 different types of themes that I thought of. I want you to make sure that you kind of, you really were watching my thought process, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. Okay. So it's not going to be a theme is one and done. It's not going to take like 2 seconds. Sometimes it may, but sometimes you may go, you know what? I don't really know what the theme is. Or you do know, but you don't know how to word it. Or maybe you come up with multiple themes like we did here. Okay. So if you have something different, I want you to add it. So I know I have 3 of mine. If you could type those 3, because maybe you do think those are the same and you like them, which is great. But if you have something else, I would like you to enter down and kind of do that. If you want to put it in different colors, so it kind of brings it to my attention that you did come up with a different one, that would be awesome. But it's not a one and done thing. Okay. I want you to look at page 22 and 23 if you're struggling. Think about that topic, and then you find a theme underneath that topic. Use the themes that they have on page 22 and 23 to help you word your own theme. But it should be a moral. It should be a lesson that was learned from the whole story. Like what did Piper, in this case, learn? But it's what the character learned. It's the moral. It's the lesson of the story. Okay? So it's okay to have multiple themes. Later on, you will have to choose one of those themes, and then you'll have to back it up on why you thought that was the theme of the story. But that's going on with the format that I talked about earlier on page 28. So again, I want you to type what I have typed. And then if you have a different idea, you can enter down and you can do it in a different color if you want. And you can type what you think the theme is because you guys have awesome ideas, and I want to hear yours as well. Okay? All right. So go ahead and do that, and then you'll be done with this one. Awesome.